On a Tuesday in September 2016, Alfred Olango, grieving the loss of a childhood friend, was in the midst of a mental breakdown. Olango's sister, fearing for his safety, did the only thing she felt she could do at the time: call 911. When officers with the El Cajon Police Department arrived at the scene, Olango pointed a vape pen at them. Mistaking it for a gun, one of the officers shot him dead.
I want to grow up. I want to grow up. So let me grow up. So let me grow up.
The killing sparked days of protests and renewed calls to reform how authorities respond to mental health calls. Yet, nearly 4 years after Olongo's death, if a call comes in regarding someone in a mental health crisis in San Diego County, they will most likely be visited by a police officer. However, it's not like this everywhere. In Eugene, Oregon, Ebony Morgan is more likely to show up for a mental health call than an officer with a badge and a gun. Morgan is a crisis worker for Cahoots, a nonprofit program that partners with Eugene's police department. When she gets a call, she goes to the scene with an EMT partner and first assesses the situation to ensure it's safe.
From there, we just start asking. My first question as a crisis worker is going to be, how can I support you? What are we doing? What are we trying to do? And what do you need?
The Cahoots program has a team of 50 and costs about $2.1 million a year, or about 3% of the Eugene Police Department's annual budget. San Diego Police's budget for fiscal 2021 is more than $566 million. If 3% were diverted to a similar program, it would cost $17 million, which is about half of what the department spent on officer overtime in the last fiscal year.
We can't even imagine a world where mental health professionals are the ones who deal with mental health issues. We can't imagine a world where more money goes to schools and to education than goes to arming police officers and buying them military-grade weapons.
Khalid Alexander is the founder of the San Diego criminal justice reform advocacy organization, Pillars of the Community. He says programs like Cahoots shouldn't be seen as major police reform, but just good common sense.
If you have an individual, I'm sitting here at the county looking outside, if you have someone who's out swimming in the fountain or really having, a huge problem, if they are swinging an axe or have hit someone with an axe, then you need to call 911 and you need to send law enforcement.
Supervisor Nathan Fletcher is working to create mental health crisis teams to respond to some calls.
The problem is if that individual is not a danger to themselves or anyone else, there is no other option for them other than to call 911.
You good, man?
Yeah.
I've talked to you before a whole bunch of times.
Sgt Rick Schnell led the San Diego Police Department's homeless outreach team for 15 years and retired a few years ago. He says even if San Diego establishes its own version of Cahoots, it couldn't completely take the place of police on mental health calls.
But it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you've got somebody with mental health issues going on. Who else are you going to call? The police are coming.
Instead, he advocates for more training for police officers and hiring officers who can maintain calm. When an officer shows up in his or her blue uniform with a gun and a badge, that automatically escalates a situation, he says.
If you're an angry person inside, you probably don't want to be a police officer. This is not the job for you.
Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.